Hello, this is Papa B reading, and I am continuing the story of the Magician's Nephew, which is part of the HarperCollins The Complete Chronicles of Narnia. And I will be reading right now part 1 of chapter 9, The Founding of Narnia. The lion was pacing to and fro about that empty land and singing his new song. It was softer and more lilting than the song by which he had called up the stars and the sun, a gentle rippling music. And as he walked and sang, the valley grew green with grass. It spread out from the land like a pool and ran up the sides of the little hills like a wave. In a few minutes, it was creeping up the lower slopes of the distant mountains and making that young world every moment softer. The light wind could now be heard ruffling the grass. Soon there were other things beside grass. The higher slopes grew dark with heather. Patches of rougher and more bristling green appeared in the valley. Diggory did not know what they were until one began coming up quite close to him. It was a little spiky thing that threw out dozens of arms and covered these arms with green and grew larger at the rate of about an inch every 2 seconds. There were dozens of these things all around him. When they were nearly as tall as himself, he saw what they were. Trees, he exclaimed. The nuisance of it, as Polly said afterward, was that you weren't left in peace to watch it all. Just as Diggory said trees, he had to jump up because Uncle Andrew had sidled up to him again and was just about to pick his pocket. It wouldn't have done Uncle Andrew much good if he had succeeded, for he was aiming at the right-hand pocket because he still thought the green rings were homeward rings. But of course Diggory didn't want to lose either. "Stop," cried the witch. "Stand back, no further back. If anyone goes within 10 paces of either of the children, I will knock out his brains." She was posing in her hand the iron bar that she had torn off the lamppost, ready to throw it. Somehow, no one doubted that she would be a very good shot. "So," she said, "you would steal back to your own world with the boy and leave me here." Uncle Andrew's temper at last got the better of his fears. "Yes, ma'am, I would," he said. "Most undoubtedly I would. I should be perfectly in my rights. I have been most shamefully, most abominably treated. I have done my best to show you civilities as were in my power. And what has been my reward? You have robbed, I must repeat the word robbed, a highly respectable jeweler. You have insisted on my entertaining you in an exceedingly expensive, not to say ostentatious lunch, though I was obliged to pawn my watch and chain to do so. And let me tell you, ma'am, that none of our family has ever been in the habit of frequenting pawn shops, except my cousin Edward, and he was in the yeomanry. During that indigestible meal, I'm feeling the worse for it at this very moment. Your behavior and conversation attracted the most unfavorable attention of everyone present. I feel I have been publicly disgraced. I shall never be able to show my face in that restaurant again. You have assaulted the police. You have stolen." "Oh, stow it, governor. Do stow it," said the cabby. "Watching and listening's the thing at present. No talking." There was certainly plenty to watch and to listen to. The tree which Diggory had noticed was now a full-grown beech, whose branches swayed gently above his head. They stood on cool green grass, sprinkled with daisies and buttercups. A little way off, across the river bank, willows were growing. On the other side, tangles of flowering currant, lilac, wild rose, and rhododendron closed them in. The horse was tearing up delicious mouthfuls of new grass. All this time the lion's song and his stately prowl, to and fro, backward and forward, was going on. What was rather alarming was that at each turn He came a little nearer. Polly was finding the song more and more interesting because she thought she was beginning to see the connection between the music and the things that were happening. When a line of dark firs sprang up on a ridge about 100 yards away, she felt they were connected with a series of deep, prolonged notes which the lion had sung a second before. And when he burst into a rapid series of lighter notes, she was not surprised to see primroses suddenly appearing in every direction. Thus, with an unspeakable thrill, she felt quite certain that all the things were coming, as she said, out of the lion's head. When you listened to his song, you heard the things he was making up. When you looked round you, you saw them. This was so exciting that she had no time to be afraid. But Diggory and the cabbie could not help feeling a bit nervous as each turn of the lion's walk brought him nearer. As for Uncle Andrew, his teeth were chattering, but his knees were shaking so that he could not run away. Suddenly, the witch stepped boldly out toward the lion. It was coming on, always singing with a slow, heavy pace. It was only 12 yards away. She raised her arm and flung the iron bar straight at its head. Nobody, least of all Jadis, could have missed at that range. The bar struck the lion fair between the eyes. It glanced off and fell with a thud in the grass. The lion came on. Its walk was neither slower nor faster than before. You could not tell whether it knew it had even been hit. Though its soft pads made no noise, you could feel the earth shake beneath their weight. The witch shrieked and ran. In a few minutes she was out of sight among the trees. Uncle Andrew turned to do likewise, tripped over a root, and fell flat on his face in a little brook that ran down to join the river. The children could not move. They were not even quite sure they had wanted to. The lion paid no attention to them. Its huge red mouth was open, but open in song, not in snarl. It passed by them so close that they could have touched its mane. They were terribly afraid it would turn and look at them, yet in some queer way they wished it would. But for all the notice it took of them, they might just as well have been invisible and unsmellable. When it had passed them and gone a few paces further, it turned, passed them again, and continued its march eastward. Uncle Andrew, coughing and sputtering, picked himself up. "Now, Diggory," he said, "you've got rid of that woman, and the brute of a lion is gone. Give me your hand and put on your ring at once." "Keep off," said Diggory, backing away from him. "Keep clear of him, Polly. Come over here beside me. Now I warn you, Uncle Andrew, don't come one step nearer. We'll just vanish." "Do what you're told this minute, sir," said Uncle Andrew. "You're an extremely disobedient, ill-behaved little boy." "No fear," said Diggory. "We want to stay and see what happens. I thought you wanted to know about other worlds. Don't you like it now that you're here?" "Like it!" exclaimed Uncle Andrew. "Just look at the state I'm in. And it was my best coat and waistcoat, too." He certainly was a dreadful sight by now, of course. The more dressed up you were to begin with, the worse you look after you've crawled out of a smashed hansom cab and fallen into a muddy brook. "I'm not saying," he added, "that this is not a most interesting place. If it were a younger man now, perhaps I could get some lively young fellow to come here first. One of those big game hunters. Something might be done of this country. The climate is delightful. I never felt such air. I believe I've done me good if circumstances had been more favorable, if only we had a gun." "Guns be blowed," said the cabbie. "I think I'll go and see if I can give Strawberry a rub down. That horse has more sense than some humans, as I could mention." He walked back to Strawberry and began making the hissing noises that grooms make. Do you still think that lion could be killed by a gun? Asked Diggory. He didn't mind the iron bar much. With all her faults, said Uncle Andrew, that's a plucky gal, my boy. It's a spirited thing to do. He rubbed his hands and cracked his knuckles as if he were once more forgetting how the witch frightened him whenever she was really there. It was a wicked thing to do, said Polly. What harm had he done her? Hullo, what's that? Said Diggory. He had darted forward to examine something only a few yards away. I say, Polly, he called back, do come and look. Uncle Andrew came with her, not because he wanted to see, but because he wanted to keep close to the children. There might be a chance of stealing the rings. But when he saw what Diggory was looking at, even he began to take an interest. It was a perfect little model of a lamppost, about 3 feet high, but lengthening and thickening in proportion as they watched it, in fact growing just as the trees had grown. It's alive. I mean, it's lit, said Diggory. And so it was, though of course the brightness of the sun made the little flame in the lantern hard to see unless your shadow fell on it. And that ends part 1 of chapter 9, which is called The Founding of Narnia, and part of the Magician's Nephew. That's all for right now. Bye-bye. Come again and let me read to you again.